I love reading news about dead Russian generals in the morning, and yesterday one of the Russian generals greatly pleased me. He died as a result of missile strike by the Ukrainian Defense Forces. I'm Maria Druska and you are watching my regular vlog where I tell you about Russian-Ukrainian war updates and more. The Russian general who did a good thing and died was named Sergei Goryachov, and he was a good man. The only thing is a pity that he did not die earlier or did not kill Putin, for example. The mentioned person deserves our attention primarily because he was the chief of staff of 35th Army of Russia. As open sources of information reports, the general did not die alone, but in the company of officers, which is not bad at all, especially in the context of the events that are currently going on at the front lines. The elimination of an officer at such level, especially with a group of other officers, is always a problem for the army, because first you need to find a suitable replacement for the senior officer and give him the opportunity to get involved in the course of things. Another important factor for me personally is that this general holding the rank of colonel in 2014-2017 was in Donbass as a part of the Russian Federation troops. I want to express my gratitude to all our allies who provide us with weapons, and thanks to which Russians are leaving our country. Well, mostly in black packages, or they don't always have all the limbs, but they knew what they were getting into. Anyway, guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video, as it helps algorithm, and if you think my videos are useful, you can always become a supporter on Patreon or buy me a coffee. Now let's talk about private military company Wagner, which you perfectly know, I'm sure. So what happened to them? I can say that we are again watching how towers of the Kremlin are fighting among themselves, and here is why. The Russian Ministry of Defense wants to legalize all, as they called it, volunteer unit by signing an official contract with the Ministry of Defense. This also applies to the PFC Wagner. For those who don't know or have not watched my previous videos, I will remind you that according to Russian law, the activity of any PMC on the territory of Russia is illegal and punishable by imprisonment. What conclusion can we come to knowing this information? Well, first of all, Wagner, as a tool of influence, which is directly subordinate to Vladimir Putin, clashes with the Ministry of Defense in the face of Sergei Shoigu and his general staff, because the so-called legalization of the private military company of Wagner gives the opportunity to apply to its members forms of punishment in one way or another stipulates in the laws of Russia, which of course cannot please Prigozhin and his mercenaries, at least because such legalization will significantly reduce their effectiveness and ability to act at their own discretion. You might logically think, why, if Prigozhin and his PMC are directly subordinate to Putin, why doesn't Putin react to this situation and give the command to Shoigu to back off from Prigozhin? But everything here is quite complicated, although I will try to answer this question. First, let's not forget that Putin is a former KGB officer, and he perfectly understands that it is not beneficial for him to have consolidated forces inside Russia, especially since the dictator is old, and who knows, maybe someone behind his back is trying to negotiate among themselves and arrange a small coup. So the proverb divide and rule fits here perfectly. Thus, various groups of the Kremlin spend resources on fighting each other and do not think about taking over the power on their own. Another option related to why they are trying to curb Prigozhin is that Prigozhin may have started to play his own game. When the Ministry of Defense began the legalization of all volunteer units, Prigozhin said that he was ready to take under his wing all those who wished, promising to provide them with good weapons and ammunition, which in turn the Russian Ministry of Defense is not capable of doing. Not bad, right? A whole bunch of armed men who know how to fight, equipped with heavy armored vehicle and even their own aviation, and only nominally subordinated to Putin, who is already old and clearly not in his place. Interesting, isn't it? And now I will add some interesting material for you to think about. The Wagner PMC has been operating in Central Africa for a long time and now has a military contingent in SAR. Moreover, this contingent is slowly increasing, and this all leads to certain thoughts, especially considering that the Wagnerites in Africa are rumored not just to be there but are trying to take control of natural resources deposits there. So it's quite possible that Prigozhin has decided to start his own game, especially not counting on Putin, really. Now, in the last part of the vlog, I want to mention Ramzan Kadyrov. Yes, this is the same traitor of the Chechen people who, by his own words, killed the first Russian at 16 and then supported his father, the traitor, and switched to the side of the Russians. His Kadyrovцы filmed funny videos, if you remember, fighting with bushes, traffic lights, and empty houses. So it seems that one of his closest comrades, Adam Delimkhanov, was hit by Ukrainian artillery and as he was moving in his motorcade. At first glance, it was not very interesting news, but important is that Kadyrov in his Telegram channel appealed to the Ukrainian intelligence, asking to provide information about this strike. Yeah, stop there. Let's repeat. Kadyrov appealed to the Ukrainian intelligence service to provide information about the strike on the column where one of his closest comrades was. This is, of course, some kind of surrealism. But true is that Kadyrov in his same Telegram channel wrote that everything is fine with his mate and he just intentionally lied. These are kind of idiots that we have to fight with. It's a pity that there are a lot of them. Anyway, I'm Maria Druska and see you in my next videos. Slava Ukraini!